beeping.
Yeah, that would be, is that the home yard or is it a lawn? That's what
We are selecting Parks Board tonight.
Yeah, out of context. I heard the first part. Out of context, that sounds Here. Vicki Wilson. Here. Cheryl Taylor West.
Yes, ma'am, here.
Jason Ince.
Here.
Valerie Peacock is absent. We have a quorum.
Line 3, education. Thank you for having us all together for this wonderful meeting of community faith and support. I understand that we live in a country where everyone is allowed to worship whatever God they wish, to practice whatever politics they believe. But in a small community like Whitney, we all come together to support each other. I particularly want to celebrate our youth tonight. I have had wonderful opportunities to work with the youth in the last few weeks. I want to acknowledge that I'm wearing a tiny pin tonight, a horned frog pin for my father, 97 years old, who is a graduate of TCU and University. I want to encourage the youth to look to the leadership in your community, in your teachers, your government officials, your police and fire, and all others to help guide you in the future of your life, which I believe in strongly. Amen. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Line 5, public comments and receiving petitions. At this time, anyone will be allowed to speak on any matter other than personnel matters. Any matter not specifically listed for public hearing elsewhere on the agenda, or matters under litigation for a length of time not to exceed 4 minutes. No council, board discussion, or any action may take place on a matter until such matter has been placed on an agenda and posted in accordance with Law, Texas Government Code 551042. We'll go in at 6:02. We have Rudy Reyna. Rudy, can you take the podium? Give your name and address, please.
Rudy Reyna, 117 Tree Shadow Lane, Texas.
Rudy, will you push the button on that right there? Thank you, sir.
Rudy Reyna, 117 Tree Shadow Lane, Texas. I'm here to talk about the Parks Board. It was brought to my attention by several people that live outside of the city that would be interested in being on the Parks Board. And so my question would be, well, as a city trying to raise funds for our community and the city park, that a lot of our fundraiser people, I'm not saying a lot, but some people from out of town would probably donate to this cause. And I think that we should be allowed to be on the board as a representative of our community. So I know there's a lot of things going on. A lot of different people are helping on the park board. And I would strongly recommend if we could have a voice from outside the city limits. That's all I have. Thank you.
David Castro, can you take the podium and state your name and address, please?
David Castor, 110 North Trinity Street. Originally, I was here to talk about the response from TNMP related to the project and what they said they were not going to do. Conversation right before this meeting let me know that they were negotiating and they're actually getting some of the things that we had asked for done. I understand that part of it's probably back on the city instead of on them specifically. So I'm gonna back off on that rant for a minute and focus on urging the council to recommend another, franchise agreement with those guys. The franchise agreement goes back to 2014. They were, a small substation that basically just serviced the community. And because that franchise agreement is so vague and so generic, a lot of the things that happen within the development of this and the city not being aware is because they treated the city like a county, like they were building out in a county instead of the city, and what the impacts were on people and individuals within the city. Secondly, it's related to the existing, they are in violation in several cases of their own agreement. And because it's so vague, it would have to be, it's vague, it needs to be written. The gist of it is, there's a rental agreement that's associated with that, which they erected multiple permanent structures on rental property within the city. There's part of the rental agreement and the taxes that the tax base is for the city, city getting a minimal revenue based on that. But essentially, by them tripling the footprint within the city and pushing electricity out to the county, the city is still locked into an agreement from 2014 that does not benefit the city. In fact, it has hurt the city, and it's hurt the city, downtown area, and the citizens as well. So I strongly urge you guys to, the cause is there. They violated that amendment, that agreement. Enough has changed. The legislation that they refer to in that agreement is even obsolete, it doesn't exist anymore. It's been amended. So there's a number of ways and a number of reasons why that can be amended to better suit the city of Whitney and the residents of the city. So that's all I'm gonna say. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy Gilberry, you take a photo and state your name and address, please.
Cindy Gilberry, I live at 123 Burr Lane, Whitney, Texas, and I own a business at 401 North Practice. I would like to congratulate the city and the Chamber of Commerce on a very successful Pioneer Days event. Even following an anonymous complaint concerning health permits for food vendors, it is a testament to the resilience of our community and event organizers to organize a successful event enjoyed by many local visiting families. All citizens have a right to raise health and safety concerns, but anonymous complaints can easily be used to harass and disrupt. The fact that the event proceeded successfully suggests that the complaint was either baseless or that the city staff and event organizers worked diligently to ensure full compliance. We should celebrate the event's success, which brought our community together, while also having confidence that city officials are doing their jobs properly. Over the last few months, Ms. Till has chosen to remain seated during the American and Texas flag recitations. This has brought to light the deep divisions within our city regarding expressions of patriotism and individual conscience. The city council member's refusal to stand for the pledge is a powerful and legally protected form of civil speech. While it is a right afforded to all citizens, including our elected officials, I, as well as many others, feel hurt or disrespected by the action. I encourage anyone that is in attendance tonight to raise your hand now if you are also offended by this disrespectful choice. There has been much discussion in recent council meetings regarding the condition of and plans for the Cato/Mustard Seed building. After several council members sought public opinion on the use of the building and related costs to improve the building, the majority response seemed to be an interest in improving the space to become a community center. I think it should be noted that at the July City Council meeting, Diane Wyatt spoke to the council about the city's failure to maintain property owned by the city located on Washington Avenue. But following the discussion to improve the building owned by the city on Washington, there has been much discussion from people affiliated closely with Ms. Wyatt that it is a wasteful spend of the city's dollars. So, which is it? Should we improve the building or allow it to continue to cause a devaluation to adjacent and nearby properties. This points to a common challenge in governance, where the public demands infrastructure improvements, but resists the financial cost of such projects. I appreciate the dedication of our city employees and elected officials that are trying to make the best decisions in all cases for the constituents they represent. Residents and community citizens who continue to criticize and incite negativity are choosing to not support the process resulting for a long-standing election process. If you choose to continue to criticize, attempt to bring division, consistently incite negativity, and make threats to elected officials and others in the community, you are making choices that are applauding the failure of those elected officials, and by doing so are applauding the failure of our community. Please stop. I could continue with many other similar examples, but I hope you understand my frustration and desire for a positive community spirit. Thank you, council members and Madam Mayor. Thank you for your time and for the difficult work you do. I am confident that by focusing on positive energies, we can continue to make our city a better place for everyone. Thank you.
And is that a representation of you?
What?
Holding up the second side. You say, is that what you're saying?
Order.
What
No,
is that?
order.
What is that?
Stop.
That's
You're gonna find
disrespectful.
out.
What is that?
Stop.
That's a post made by the other side of the devil.
Order!
You two.
Order!
You two.
Order!
You two.
Order.
Who in the heck are these?
None of your business. I'm somebody that's trying to do the right thing and not somebody that's trying to divide this community like some of the other people around here.
Sam?
That's who I am.
Those two out, please.
Hey, come on.
Both of them.
Which one?
The gentleman over there.
You too.
Okay.
We're gonna move on to Kaylee Holiday. Kaylee, if you can.
What about it, loudmouth?
Mayor, I have a concern.
Hey, both of y'all.
We're
Please.
moving on.
I don't understand why these students are laughing.
Go. Go.
That's enough. Kaylee?
You know where I live.
Keep going.
Haley Holiday, 104 Joyce Street. Good evening, Council and Mayor. I would like to speak on 3 key issues. 1, to sit during the national anthem while able to stand is a right. However, it is insulting to everyone around and is obviously only done for one of 2 reasons. In protest to the nation or selfish personal intention. A, when an elected council member does this, it calls into question the loyalty to the oath of office if it is done in protest to the nation, since part of that oath is to the nation and its constitution. B, so which is it? This loyalty to the oath of office or selfish personal attention? 2, the city of Whitney and its governing body has never been perfect and will likely never be perfect. However, we continue to grow and improve. All of the bickering and inside sabotage was at first popular with small-minded people with personal issues who were willfully misinformed. But the people have recognized this cancer and grown weary of it. Even children of this town have noticed the unnecessary and unproductive division. Is this how we want to represent our community? Most of the people in this room want to better the community, but to the small percentage who only want to tear it apart, my only question is why? And if your sole agenda is to cause problems, you are no hero, no savior. You're just a small bump in the road that good citizens of Whitney will recognize and get past. 3, lastly, take a look at the amount of people who have left their place of employment within the city because of the severance caused by a select few people in this town. If your agenda is personal, if it is anything other than for the improvement of the entirety of the city of Whitney, please do us all a favor and take your division elsewhere. Because I can promise you the uproar that you have caused is not beneficial to anyone or anything. We only want to see the city strive, and that is hard to do with people only trying to bring it down. Thank you.
Thank you. Glenn Coons, take the podium and take your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Glenn Coombs. I live at 101 West Railroad Avenue, and I wanted to talk about the trash at the after the Pioneer Days events where the carnival was set up. I went over there the day after the carnival broke down, and I took 2 large trash bags, those big 55-gallon trash bags. And I went over with the intention of cleaning up that area where the carnival was, and we had, I don't know, thousands of people that were out there, and I started picking up the trash, and I brought it with me. That's it. That was the trash.
Gotta love Whitney.
Thank you.
And I want to thank the people that did, that participated in the events, and whoever was that was in charge of inspiring people to pick up their trash. They did a wonderful job. And I'll dispose of this properly.
Thank you. Diane Wyatt. Lupe Enos. Reno.
Good evening. How are y'all?
Hola.
Hola, ¿cómo están?
Bien,
My name is Lucy. I go by Green Eyes, and everybody knows me. I am the Facebook queen. Everybody knows that. But not to cause chaos. I used to. I got better. Anyways, I don't know if I wrote this right, but I'm going to read it out to you. I stand before you today not out of convenience, but out of necessity. Our community is at crossroads facing a troubling divide, fueled not by external forces, but by the very leadership entrusted to unify us. Council members, and you know who you are, I don't have to say no names, your role demands integrity, respect, and commitment to the common good. Yet your actions have sown discord, eroding the fabric of our community with divisive rhetoric and disrespectful conduct. This is not the leadership we deserve. We demand accountability. Leadership is not a platform for chaos. It is a responsibility to uplift, to listen, and to foster unity. When personal agendas overshadow community needs, trust is broken. And trust once lost is hard to regain. I urge you to reflect on the impact of your words and actions. Our city deserves leaders who inspire hope, not hostility. We call for a renewed commitment to civility, collaboration, and respect. The future of our community depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Speak on Ms. Shelby.
Good evening, City Council, Madam Mayor. My name is Stephanie Shelby. I live at 509 East Roosevelt. And I submitted, well, first, before I start, I did want to say thank you very much for successful Pioneer Days. It was one of the best ones I've been at since I was here in 2017. As it was already stated, the trash was cleaned up, everybody worked. It was a great success, so thank y'all for that. I submitted an application to serve on the Parks Board because I would like to create a place for all the citizens, not just the youth, but all the citizens of Whitney to be able to come and play, gather, walk, or enjoy. We don't have that, and we need it. I moved to Whitney in 2017, and I became very quickly involved with the city and the community in 2019. And my then 3-year-old wanted to play in youth sports and get involved with animal control, and he met some wonderful people here, including several of you council members. I have served on as a secretary and registrar for the WYA for 4 years. I am also a member of the PTO for the intermediate and the elementary school PTO board. I'm their volunteer coordinator. Everybody comes to me when they need volunteers. I was part of the agreement that we worked with the city, with Chris Brennan and the city, to get the agreement back together for the youth association and the city so that the park would be maintained, and it didn't always fall on the city because there's not enough employees to keep that park. So the WWFL does a wonderful job of helping with the city to keep that park maintained now. It looks wonderful. If y'all haven't been out there, I expect you to go out there and look at it. The bleachers have been redone, and I attribute a lot of that to the WWFL. I'm present in almost every city council meeting. I'm present in almost every volunteer function, every city function there is. You'll either see me, my fiance, or my son. My son goes to everything. Everybody knows CJ, including the librarian. The youth are our future, and they need a good place to play and hang out. I have people that have lived here all their lives, and when I ask them, what y'all do when you were younger, they say nothing. Because there is nothing for them to do. They can't go to the park and just hang out and play, because there's nothing for them to do. We need a good park. We need a good community center. Mustard Seed is a perfect place to have a community center. I think my perspective and my ability to work as a team, because I'm a very good team player, would be a good asset to the Parks Board, so I encourage you to please accept my application and give it some thought. Thank you.
Moving along, we have Ms. Ann Chastain. If you can take the podium, please, ma'am.
My name is Ann Chastain. I have a business in downtown Whitney, which I think a lot of y'all know me. And I also live at 140 Fort Horse Road in Whitney, Texas. I'm in the zip code. I have a business downtown, but live outside the city limits. And I do want to follow on Ruby's comment where Ruby went. There are a lot of resources outside the city that are available to the city for some of our boards. I know the ordinance right now currently says it needs to be a citizen. And at a later date, I think it'd be nice to see it on the agenda so we could discuss the difference between a person outside the city limits and inside the city limits and what they can bring to a board. Ultimately, what we've done is researched all the boards. The city council has the final decision. One of the arguments against people outside the city from serving on the board has been that we don't pay taxes, so therefore we shouldn't have a voice. That doesn't mean you should exclude their brain, their experience, or their advice. There may be some new ideas that can come to the city. Ultimately, all they do is make proposals and recommendations to the council. The council has complete control. So I'd like to see that on the agenda at some future time. The reason I came today is there's some very important things on the agenda tonight. One of the things I'd like to do is kind of set a stage that hopefully all of us can have a reasonable discussion on. There are a lot of opinions in the room. Everybody has an opinion, and we also know what everybody else has. I don't know if y'all heard that expression. There are things that people do that we may not agree with, and the question that I have for all of us here is how can we have a discussion, not an argument, not a screaming match, but how can we listen to other people's opinions? We may learn something we hadn't thought about. Specifically, what I'm looking at is, as we go forward, we're going to talk about some of the ordinances. You have a lot of people from the business community here tonight. One of the things we'd like to see is where the council wants to see Whitney going. What is our future? I look at where are we, who are we, and where do we want to go? Do we want to be a sneaky little residential town that everybody lives in, and they commute and go and spend their dollars elsewhere? Or do we want to be a charming little community where we can shop, eat, live, play in our own community, and spend our dollars here? Because ultimately, we're going to come against two factions. We're going to have city budget. City's got to pay for services. You have basically two things you can get revenue from: property taxes, sales taxes. Everybody I know wants to reduce property taxes. So what do? You still have the services. But what if we had more thriving businesses? Businesses contribute. There's been arguments that a property owner has more value to the city than a business. I adamantly disagree on that. A property owner pays property taxes however their property is valued, but it's capped. And a property owner always wants to reduce their taxes. They want to pay less. The cool thing about a business, the more successful a business is, the more sales tax we bring to the city. We're not capped. The more sales we make, the more sales tax that the businesses bring to the city. And the city has more money for the infrastructure and everything. And I think Amy has really pushed, I'm sorry, Ms. Hill. Is it okay? Go ahead.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. Amy has really taking a platform of reducing property taxes. But we're not seeing the other side of the economic development side. If you're residential, great, you have no sales tax, you only have property taxes. If you're a commercial building who rents to tenants, you're still capped. But if you're a business, and we support our businesses, you have unlimited potential at that point. So one thing I will ask as we go forward and talk about some of these ordinances we're going to talk about shortly, that you think about it from a business perspective. Because I think the city owes the businesses the opportunity for us to come in, grow, and contribute over looking only at property taxes and only at property owners.
Time is up. And
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We come out at 6:26. Moving on to the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted in one motion. Should a council member desire discussion of any item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Line item 6, act on approving the regular city council meeting minutes for the regular meeting on August 21st, 2025, special meeting on August 25th, 2025, and special meeting September 11th, 2025, and regular meeting on September 18th, 2025. Line item 7, act on approving the city of Whitney expense reports and register reports of August and September 2025.
Mayor, I'd like to pull item 6 for a quick correction and item 7 for discussion. And on, well, sorry. It was just item 6.
Turn it off. Sure, turn that one off. Turn yours off. That's right. There we go.
Peekaboo. Okay. Item 6, there's a slight correction, September 18th, very bottom of the page. It just leaves my name out.
Okay.
That was it. It's just consistency.
Which page is it on? Is it under regular agenda or?
September 18th. I should have numbered all the pages. Deliberate and act on information provided by the Whitney Fire Rescue on the Forestry Service grant.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I see what you're talking about. So.
And what was it on 7?
On item 7, this is the check register. Somebody asked about the daily and Wells communications for $1,778.84. So I was just gonna see what that was.
It's to do with IT.
I'm not sure we have to.
I'll have to look on that one.
Okay.
And find out what it is.
And so when people are curious, they can just ask for like a purchase order or something like that. Yeah, FYI. Okay.
They can call the city too.
Call the city. And then I know we've got 2 months of stuff here, right?
Yes.
On the one for September, we've got Messer and Court, our attorney down there, for $8,000. And then again, back in August was $10,000. August also has another charge for $40,000. Can we share with the public a little bit about where that bigger cost is going?
So the 10,000 or the 40,000 one, those were invoices that had been missed through emails, because I get so many emails, I missed them, and so I had to go back and catch up with all the invoices that had not been paid. So that's what that was a cleanup.
All right. And to Mr. Castor's point earlier on the statement of revenue and expenditures, there's a line that says rents. Does that cover TNMP paying rent?
No, they fall under franchise fee, The rent is, only for tower rent.
Gotcha. And is that franchise tax up here?
Correct.
All right. And just by way of public record, that's $78,000 from prior year. So that's a chunk of change. Okay, and I think that was it for that. So with that, I will, unless anybody else has something, I will.
Hey, I would actually like to ask a question.
Okay.
On the financials that we received, I believe yesterday, on other revenues, can you tell us what that other revenue is consisting of?
So that's anything other than, that doesn't fall under the franchise property tax. It could be accident reports, it could be, like a reimbursement from a vendor that we got. We have to put it there until the auditors make their adjustments on it. But it's anything other than what is actually lined out in the GLs.
Okay, and then I also have professional services, that our budgeted amount was $110,000.
Yes.
And we have actually, exceeded that at $160,000.
Correct.
May I ask what has caused us to go over the budget amount?
So that falls under attorney fees, and then, also Hill County Appraisal District, their fees come out of that as well. And then anything that, that's professional, like the attorney or the appraisal district or anything like that, is what comes out there, but mostly it's the attorney.
So on the regular scope of it, or is there extra fees because of other things that have been brought up in the?
It's what they bill to us every month, but the bills have gone up due to, I guess, extra work by the attorneys.
If I may, Madam Mayor, Council Member, obviously, we've seen a massive increase in the public information requests. And it's always been the policy, so long as it's been this administration, that those go to the attorney for verification for any needs of Attorney General's opinion and redaction. So because of that, and the massive amount that we've seen over the past year and a half, the attorney, law firms fees, not just this attorney, let's not misconstrue that this is what this is about. This is the entire firm. The firm also provides us with, different types of legal advice when it comes to HR. They have a very broad brush that they give us advice on. But to answer the question, one of the main reasons that we've seen the massive increase is because of the extra amount of public information requests and the amount of hours they're spending on having to do the redactions, the Attorney General opinions, and such.
So could we explain to the citizens what a public information request is?
Would that fall under discussion here? For financials?
Yeah, I mean, just very shortly.
So as a citizen, you have the right to public records, right? Anything that's deemed public records of the government, you have access to and a right to said public records. Like we've discussed previously, salaries. Let's just take salaries as an example. Salaries is something that's of public record, and anybody can request to see that at any given time. There's a format in which you have to do that in accordance with the Public Information Act. It has to be in writing, right? There's a statute for that. When those requests come to us, we have to then send them to the attorney, because they may need to go to the Attorney General for an opinion on if it can be disclosed, because there are certain things that are protected that are not disclosable. So that's one of the reasons we send everything to the firm, to have those checks and balances, to make sure we are protecting the city and the citizens' taxpayer dollars, that doesn't wind up getting us hemmed up into a lawsuit.
Thank you for that, and then I have one more thing.
And I also have a question.
Jesus, what's going on down there? Sorry.
That's right.
Under the parks and the utilities, it says that, we had budgeted $3,200, but we have currently gone at $6,530. Can I ask what's caused us to go over on that?
There was an increase in the use of the park with the lights. That's basically what that is park lights.
Okay, so good, okay. And have we allowed for that this year?
The budget's over with. I mean, I think that I would have to look at the current budget and see if we increased it, but I do believe that we did put extra money in R&M for parks this year.
Okay.
And to be clear, we did try to budget more money in that last year, and we had to cut it. So we were already kind of expecting that to happen. Unfortunately, budget cuts were budget cuts.
Okay, I'm good, thank you.
I just can't resist the temptation when we bring up the topic of public information, and I realize we are trying to make a decision on a past meeting, but Ms. Jill is so kind to spend her private money for a very fancy, very expensive camera. And I'm assuming that's public information. Is that not public information?
So Ms. Taylor West, that is not a posted agenda item, and so we can't talk about that at this meeting.
Do I have a right to know where it's being publicized at all then, since it is public information?
Ms. Taylor West, Councilmember Taylor West, we have to make sure that we are complying with the Texas Open Meetings Act and only talking about items that are on the posted agenda. There's certainly the opportunity in a future meeting, if you so request, to get a subject on the council meeting, but it is not a posted agenda item.
Okay, since we do have an expensive camera, you know, I'm kind of afraid to go to the bathroom when Ms. Jill's here because I'm afraid she'll follow me.
We are moving on.
Not divisive at all.
We have, line item 6, we need a motion on that. With the correction.
I make a motion that with the correction that we approve the, regular city council meeting minutes, excuse me, for the regular meeting on August 21st, 2025, and the special meeting on August 25th, 2025, and the special meeting on September 11th, 2025, and the regular meeting on September 18th, 2025.
I'll second it.
Katie?
Yes.
Vicky?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Well, I guess it's motion passes.
Line item 7. Act on approving the city of Whitney expense reports and register report for August and September 2025. Is there a motion?
I'll move adoption.
I second.
With a motion by Amy Till, second by Vicky Wilson. Amy?
No.
Vicky?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
We have 1 no, 3 yeses, motion passes.
Move along to the department reports, Department of Emergency Services.
Excuse me, sorry.
Madam Mayor, our Director of Emergency Services is currently in Ecuador on a mission trip. He asked that if you wouldn't mind reading those to the record for him.
August 2025 statistics, total call and fire and EMS was 218. EMS report, they ran 78 calls, 73 of those calls were in the city limits, 5 calls from the county mutual aid for care flight. The average response time in the city was 5.3 minutes and 13.4 minutes out of the county. Fire report, they ran 140 calls, 9 fire calls were in the city, 14 fire calls were in the county, 73 first responder calls were in the city, and 44 first responder calls were in the county. In September 2025 statistics, total call fire and EMS was 193. EMS reports, the ambulance ran 60 calls, 57 calls were in the city, 3 calls were in the county, mutual aid with care flight. The average response time in the city was 5.6 minutes and 7 minutes out of the county. Fire report, they ran 133 calls, 3 fire calls were in the city, 20 fire calls were in the county, 56 first responder calls were in the city, with 54 first responder calls in the county. And we have police department, and code compliance. Chief Hathaway.
I got the wrong one. I got August statistic. Appreciate it.
It says August on there, but I think it's the right one.
That's water leaks. I could suggest it. Yeah. I could suggest it.
Here you go, Sam.
No, I just did put, it was in August, I just didn't put September on it.
Push-ups, go.
I did right now.
You barely do 5. So I'm interim Chief Hathaway, so I just recently took this position, temporarily. But for the police department, we had a total calls of 336. We had 2 arrests, traffic stops, we had 147. Citations and warnings total was 171. For the animal control and code enforcement, we had 1 animal control call. Code enforcement, we had 4, and 3 of those were self-initiated.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that we're doing a kind of a catch up with 2 things, and the August title carried over for the September, but there's a liquor violation listed on both of them. Is that a typo also?
Yes, that's a typo.
Okay. And what
Yes, ma'am.
what was that?
The liquor violation, I'm not sure on that one. To tell you the truth, that was something that the previous chief handled prior to me.
Do we know about that? No?
Councilmember Gill, I believe it may reference a TABC alleged violation that was turned over to TABC to handle, but I'm not certain on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Public Works.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For September, we had 4 water leaks. Roll repair. Equipment status, our grasshopper mower is back down, so we can track down some parts for it. I mean, those things are few and far between. City Parks update. We did install 3 new bleachers. We got rid of our 3 old wood bleachers out there finally, replaced them with all aluminum bleachers, so that's one of my city goes through. And for after hours calls, we had 5 water calls and 3 after hours sewer calls last week.
I had 2 things. I did hear that the set flow link was not working on the website. Do we have any information on that?
So, Councilmember Teal, on these reports, they can only really talk about what's in the reports and what's posted, and so if there's a specific item regarding Public Works that you want on a future agenda, we can take that as a request for a future agenda item. I'm not understanding what you're asking. I'm sure Billy understands, but.
Yeah, the
it's a
set
little
flow
easier
is
for me.
is about water leaks and notifications and tracking usage.
It's my understanding that that individual wasn't set up on the portal to be notified that it's been fixed. In fact, yesterday, I believe all of our water system had a refresher course through Omnia and Phoenix to make sure everybody's tracking on how to do that. But as far as I'm aware, that link works.
Okay. And would this be okay to get an update on the TCEQ violation and what's been done with the wastewater treatment plant?
No, that would have to be a future agenda
Okay,
item.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Library report.
Good evening, council, mayor, and citizens. In August, we had 25 new library cards issued. As you'll remember, September was library card sign-up month, and we had 40. In, August, 957 total visitors. In September, 1,097. Our computer users, August and September respectively, 88 and 126. Visitors served with direct assistance, meaning a staffer went and assisted them to do something very specific, 100 and 104 respectively. We provided 31 programs in August and 35 in September. Visitors attending those programs, 121 and 155 respectively. 952 items checked out in August and 604 in September. We added a new local author, so we are now actively supporting 15 local authors as of September. 2 outreach visits, and these are director outreach visits, in August and 4 in September. Outreach hours, 3 and 6 respectively. We had 3 volunteers, individual volunteers working in August, 5 in September. Total of 7 hours in August and 2.5 hours in September. Those were little short items that they came in and did. They had a total late fines collected of $12.95 in August, $30.55 in September. Total fines copy print services, $272 in August, $413.95 in September. Currently, programs costume swap going on through the end of October. Bring your gently used clean costume and stop by for free kids books.
In your report on the story of how Whitney used its library, under Books and Beyond, you mentioned that Whitney readers checked out 14,326 items. That's impressive. Thank you, guys. And it says that there were 5 volunteers that gave 119 hours. Can the library use some more volunteers?
Currently, the library has quite a few volunteers that have been vetted and that are active volunteers. We have 2 that come in regularly, 3 that come in regularly, and some others on standby for when we need them. So I'm actually quite thankfully and gratefully pretty fully staffed with volunteers right now. That can change at any time.
That's great to hear. Thank you very much.
For August, we had a total traffic times of 43. Collections was 7,751.45. In September, we had a total of 26 traffic citations. Collections was a total of $4,501.11.
Move on to the regular agenda, line item 8, discuss, consider, and select planning and administrative service provider to complete the application and provide information for the Community Development Block Grant, Integration Resilient Communities Program, funding administered by the Texas General Land Office.
Before we take this up, can we have a bathroom break? Short recess.
Short recess. 6:48.
Don't you do it.
And just to answer the council member's question, that shiny new camera back there isn't new. We got it in 2021. We're recessed, aren't we?
No, we have a form of the council.
Oh, okay. It just doesn't have its case on today.
Yeah, never miss an opportunity. I've learned that a long time ago.
I didn't know that was, I didn't know that was. Oh, it's underneath. Oh, I'm sorry.
You know,
I thought I put all of it together.
Outside.
Back at 6:52, and we're at line item 8, discuss, consider, and select planning and administration service providers to complete the application and project implementation for the Community Development Block Grant, recommendation, Resilient Communities Program funding administered by the Texas General Land Office.
Madam Mayor, as the council has already asked to go out for, RFPs for grant administration, we received one back, that was GrantWorks. The committee met and reviewed the, packet that was submitted and ultimately chose not to go back out for more bids and went ahead and selected, GrantWorks as this, and this is just the affirmation. The council just needs to affirm that they are selected as the grant administrator.
Can you share who the committee was?
Okay, it was, I'm trying to draw up, Christie, you might have to help me with this one. Myself, Chief Scholes, Mayor Cheryl Taylor West.
Thank you. And, this was a 133-page proposal. Thank you for sending that last minute. I have not read all 133 pages. I did skip to the midpoint where it says proposed cost of services. Do you have that part in front of you? I just wanted to make sure that I'm reading it correctly.
I don't have it.
Okay, so it says the plan development total cost $267,000, grant administration total cost $33,000, grand total $300,000, and the grant administration percent of grand total is 11%. I was just gonna see if y'all could break it down in layman's terms to let people know how much this is actually costing.
We have a representative, Mr. Rob Barton here. He can give us a good idea on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. With this particular grant, it is for the entire $300,000. There is no match for the city. That's one of the few grants we'll ever see without a match. So the administration part is part of that. That's all writing the application. We had to break it down, writing the application, submitting the monthly reports, and the rest is for GrantWorks to actually conduct the plan, hold the public hearings for community input, and do all the mapping and of the water lines, sewer lines, and all of that. And doing performing all the studies, all the comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
And I just want to go again, just to remind everybody kind of what this grant is for. This grant is to do a planning for the city. The last time the building capacity study that was done in this city was the year 2000, and it was supposed to have been completed by 2020. And around 2020, 2007, 2008, it just got discarded and was never taken up past there. So we're trying to get a fresh start on that. This will give us a good path going forward on what the city needs infrastructure-wise, and it even talks about, excuse me, land use, and it helps with zoning, and it helps with all those areas that we're struggling with. This comprehensive plan will help fix this grant.
So this is just authorizing the city to spend the $33,000 to retain to do that?
Essentially, Councilmember Till, what you're doing today is awarding this grant administration to GrantWorks. That's correct.
Okay,
I make a motion that we do approve, the application project implementation for the community development block grant mitigation. Do I need to say those letters? Resilient communities program, funding administered by the Texas General Land Law to GrantWorks.
I second
Amy Teal,
abstain.
Vicki Wilson,
Yes.
Cheryl Taylor West,
Yes.
Jason Hicks.
Yes.
We have 3 yeses, 1 abstain, motion passes.
Line item 9, deliberate and act on an annual price increase of 5.05% for the public services.
Robin, did you want to speak with the council about this and kind of explain what this is?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is your standard annual rate increase. It's in the language. Most of the solid waste contracts have it on an annual basis. It is the 12 months rolling average that's dictated by Consumer Price Index.gov. So it's a government chart there, and that's where it's drawn from. It just covers all the costs related to our business, so metal, plastic, labor, fuel, that type of thing. It has been going down the past 3 years. It doesn't feel like it when it's still at 5, but it's coming down the past 3 years. We expect it to continue to go down because things are starting to even out since COVID. That covers most of it. If you guys have any questions, I'm here for it.
Any questions?
I got a question. Don't we have a signed contract for so many years with them already at a certain amount? Huh?
Not for a second.
No, but we have a contract with so many years.
Right.
How long is that year? Is that
You
contract?
still have a couple of years on the last amendment, and just so that you know, Mr. It just covers the cost, just like everything else at our house this year, and it's gone up. But it just covers that cost, and so what that does, it's not just the public that does it, it's an industry. It's across the industry, all vendors, but it makes it to where if you're doing, just like your water rates, if you're doing a little bit a year, each year, then when you get to the end of that 5-year contract, you don't have a huge jump off point to get whole. Like if rates, all costs went up and you had to, do a $5 increase, instead you're just trying to chip it off little by little as that cost goes up.
Right, I do understand that things do change as you get, I own a business myself, and I do know that everything has increased, but I was just concerned, not concerned, but I was worried about the contract that we had.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the future, can we just have the contracts included with the items when we're voting on amending or changing them or anything?
That will be fun reading.
I'm making a note, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, he's just making a note, it's okay.
As you so desire, ma'am.
Thank you, Robin. Any other questions? No?
Can I make a statement? The trash was collected late yesterday. How many people noticed that? I went out and personally thanked them when they drove up to my street. Thank you for doing this not so pleasant to us.
Alright, so do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we, approve the increase of 5.05% to Republic Services.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Amy,
Abstain.
Vicky,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
we have 3 yeses, 1 abstain, motion passes.
Line item 10, deliberate and act on a citizen agenda request from Debbie Oss concerning some regulations in the downtown business district, B3.
Hello, good evening. My name is Debbie Oss. I'm the owner of CNS Antiques at 107 West Washington. I've been a successful business owner there for going on 7 years. This is the second time I've had to come to the city council. The second complaint I've had in 7 years of my merchandise on the sidewalk. What I'm asking you tonight is to figure out a way that we can either amend that ordinance to allow merchandise on the sidewalk. It actually just states no outside sales. I'm not sure that really means stuff on the sidewalk, or if that means you have vendors set up on the sidewalk collecting money and selling out there. It doesn't really, it's not specific is what it actually means. Or I would be willing to pay a permit charge. Some cities do that, a permit to allow my stuff on the sidewalk. I have also started a petition of my customers over the last 2 weeks since I was served, and have almost 80 signatures of people that would enjoy my stuff on the sidewalk. And most of my business, according to my square, 40% of it is local return shoppers, which only makes our city grow. I have that, and I'm not sure why I'm being singled out. The day that Josh served me, and he's no longer here to answer to this, he said he was also serving Ace Hardware. So him and I agreed that I would come before the city council and appeal to y'all to get that changed. Well, I didn't get my agenda in time for last month, so I had to go on to this month. In the meantime, I was approached by another officer that came into the store and said if I didn't have my stuff off the sidewalk by the 10th, he would start issuing me citations every day until I removed it. So I said, well, I'm going before the city council in October, that's only 10 more days, but he wouldn't allow me that. So, as a citizen, I did remove the stuff from the sidewalk, there's nothing on there now. But I did notice today that Ace Hardware still has stuff on the sidewalk. Our Forgotten Treasures is full of stuff on the sidewalk. And I'm not sure why I'm being singled out as, for the complaint, but I'm not the only one that has stuff on the sidewalk. Well, I am now, I'm the only one that doesn't have stuff on the sidewalk. But I would like permission to at least put some things out there. We have a lot of out-of-town traffic that when they come down Washington, some days I'm the only business open. I leave my front door open even when it's 100 degrees, and I've got my air conditioner running because it's more inviting that way to welcome visitors into our town. And I don't live in Whitney, I actually live in Coffeyville. I'm not even in Hill County, but I love Whitney. My parents retired here back in 1970. And all the stuff that happened earlier tonight is just unbelievable that a small town can get to that. To be so petty as to argue about stuff on the sidewalk when we have kids that are drowning at the lake, and we have older people that are having their homes broken into and traffic violations. I think the least of the town's concern should be my stuff on the sidewalk. And I'm just asking y'all, please vote in my favor for that, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, I know you do.
I absolutely do. I am like 1,000% in favor of striking as many ordinances that interfere with businesses in Whitney, especially in a small town, with a small town atmosphere. When Gary had a booth down here at the trading post, that's not there anymore. I would be helping him out. I would move stuff out onto the sidewalk because it helps attract attention to the storefront. 100% agree. I did not see any specific changes suggested in here in the ordinance. Or I guess we haven't really,
So Councilmember Teal, we do have that to discuss later on the agenda, and there are some pretty drastic changes based off of what our current things, our current ordinance reads.
Does
And-
it affect Ms. Pop?
Absolutely.
yes.
It is up for discussion later.
Right, and, you know, but to echo what was said earlier today, this is a public post by CNS Antiques and Treasures that says the evil ones are back at it here in downtown Whitney. I don't agree with these ordinances. I would not have supported them, but I don't think I would call the mayor or the police chief evil
I
for
was not
enforcing
calling
this.
them evil,
Who would you be calling evil?
whoever made the complaint.
So it's evil to complain, but not evil to enforce the complaint? If you've been before this council twice now, over 7 years, and the city did not help you,
No, the city did, they approved it the last time.
they
But all
improved
of
it.
the city council members are different, the mayor is different, I think Jason is the only one that's still here. No, the city
Yeah.
council did agree to let me have it, that's why I still had it there.
So
I'm
if the
just
ordinance,
asking for you
Yeah.
to agree again.
I don't mind agreeing, but we
And
have,
there's nothing evil about our mayor or any of the people in public office.
but you
It
think it's
was
okay
somebody
to,
within a close radius of my store, and yes, ma'am, I did post that.
and
I was
you
asking people
think that
to
it
support
helps
me.
the city with not being divisive, to use words like evil ones, obviously the devil, and then like
I
pictures
didn't
like
post
this.
that.
No, but you liked it, and
I
you
still
said,
didn't post it.
you said 100%.
It's
social media, don't matter.
It is social media, but if we're talking about wanting to do this,
I'm calling order.
thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question of Ms. Austin?
Yes.
Ms. Austin, do you recall about what the time frame was when you approached the council? Because I tried to look it up in the minutes and could not find it.
I
Do you remember?
think, I was told that the minutes were not being recorded back then. Do you remember? We opened
Well,
that.
we've always had written minutes, but
Well,
not.
Jason remembers, he was
not-
the only one here.
Would you like to discuss what was said in that? meeting?
Well, here's the reason. So I'm trying to make sure that this isn't a separate occasion, because I remember when Mayor Barker was here, something coming to the table about it, but I didn't find anything before that. Was that the first time?
There was only one other time besides
Okay,
this one.
so just a little back history here is in 2022, it was brought to the council by Mayor Barker to ask the council to approve an ordinance that would have, had permits for the council, or for the persons to be able to, put stuff out on the, sidewalks. I don't recall exactly what took place, but I remember, and in the minutes, it states that the council asked the mayor to go back and reword the ordinance and bring it back to the council. However, that never happened, and that's where we are today. All right.
Should I hear her first? Go. Sort of, kind of.
She was around, yes, I was around. And that was one of our very lively discussions that we had at the city, at a city council meeting that was held over in the other building, and there were actually two factions. There were some people that, no matter what was out on the sidewalk, that group wanted nobody to have that. And then there was the other side that said, let's be reasonable, we're a small town. And basically, it was in that, in the annex is when we had the meeting. And it was a very lively discussion that was also part of all of the political stuff going on. And basically had decided, no, we're all okay, we would review it, we did not come back. Now, I moved here in 2018. And the one thing I have always seen is we've always had merchandise on the sidewalks, regardless of an ordinance. It has always been there. And the one thing I will stand in support with Debbie is if she didn't have her stuff on our sidewalk, nobody would come down Washington Street. And there's a very small faction that has one view, and there was a much larger faction that had a different view. And if I remember right, Janice had gone around and kind of talked to some people to see, okay, okay, what's going on and kind of the ordinance. And it went back to status quo. And I would challenge anybody here to go back in history and say, when did our sidewalks have nothing on them? Because that has been our status quo for the longest, and then to suddenly enforce it kind of brings up some questions. The other thing I would challenge is, like Debbie said, how come she was singled out, but we have other businesses all around, except for Ace, and I guess it's
No,
not
Ace was served.
I know, Ace, so I said other businesses around that were not.
Ace was served the same day out.
Yeah, and so we have two businesses served, but we had other businesses that have things out. The other thing I'm finding, and I'll discuss this later when we get into the ordinance revision, we have 3 different business zones, B1, B2, and B3. B3 has been singled out and has been persecuted to some degree that we don't see with B1 and B2. And I will go through those when we start talking about the ordinance a bit later. But I'm absolutely in support of Debbie's merchandise. One thing I have seen Debbie do is go out with her measuring stick and make sure that we have a 36-inch wide sidewalk, because I think you and I have the only,
on the sidewalk.
we have the only semi-ADA compliant ramp. And if you wanna go back on, you know, ADA compliance and all that, our sidewalks are horrendous. And one of the things you will see, if you also go back before the garden club put out their, boxes, we had people falling off the sidewalks. And so one of the things that we went to the city, it was 4 years ago, your budget meeting, we asked for streetlights and we asked for sidewalk, well, actually 5 years ago now, sidewalk repairs. The response we got back on sidewalk repairs is once we start on one, we have to do them all, and it's cost prohibitive to make our sidewalks ADA compliant. One of the options that businesses came up with is to put merchandise on those areas where people fall. I know I have a place in front of the winery, it's a square, you cannot see it at night. We've had lots of people fall. Fortunately, to my knowledge, they have not sued us. We've had 3 people fall within a 4-week period, they're mostly elderly. They step off the steps, and sometimes the merchandise, depending on where it's placed, can help prevent and kind of guide those people around. So there are some major issues with our sidewalks. And I will absolutely support Debbie with her merchandise on the sidewalk being a neighbor business.
I did have another thing since she brought up the lights. Through Pioneer Days, they turned the plugs on the sidewalks around town. They immediately turn them off after. We have a Christmas decorating contest every year. We're expected to put up lights and display stuff, but we can't do that without plugs.
That's not on the agenda.
I know, okay, I'll do that next
Cheryl,
time.
what do you have to say?
My question is, are these complaints that have been filed anonymous?
I was told I was not, could not be told who called the complaint. On both issues.
Counselor, Madam Mayor, may I ask a question of the council? Counselor, aren't code violations and code, reports, aren't those a matter of public record?
The person who complains about code violations, I believe, under the Open Records, Act, it can be redacted.
Okay, so go ahead, Jason, go ahead and do your thing, and then I have a question.
What I recall of that meeting that y'all are trying to discuss is, first of all, I think the council sat there that night, I don't remember saying revise it or anything, but I do remember, and I was one of them, that said, if I'm gonna do for one, I'm gonna do for all.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay? I'm 54 years old. To answer y'all's question, ever since I've been born, as far as I can remember, there's been all the stores, which used to be a lot more stores, had stuff on the front. We used to have a gentleman that kind of controlled it too. And I do see the point of that. Do I see, and I'm not pointing people out, but do I see a problem that we do need to revise our ordinance and try to make it better? Yeah, we do. And the reason why I say that is that we need to make sure the pathway is not crowded. And like I said, I don't have no business that I'm pointing at. I'm just saying in general. I do have a problem if people have problems going down the sidewalk. stuff.
We had
But-
20,000 people downtown Whitney on October the 4th, not
Yes.
everybody had stuff on their sidewalks,
Yes.
it was not issues.
No, but I'm just saying, we got to have, I'm not saying take it off. I'm saying we got to regulate. I'm not saying anybody's in the wrong right now. But what I'm trying to say, ever since I've been here, there's stuff on the sidewalk. And if we're not gonna do for one, we don't need to do for all the others.
And that's all I'm asking.
And that's the way I feel either or. So, my opinion on it, if we decide to let one do it, we need to let them do it. If we decide one gotta go, one's gotta go. I mean, there's no
Well,
other
they all,
choice.
if one
Yes.
does, all do, yeah.
Yes.
And.
But it does catch the eye of stuff on the sidewalk too. I understand that. And it does help their business. I do understand that.
Yes, I agree. So we're discussing this to make it whether or not she can or cannot do it?
I think that's later on our discussion.
We need a motion to add this to a future agenda.
Yes.
But I have a question.
So again, the discussion to amend said ordinance is already on the agenda, it's later in the agenda.
Okay.
Because it is a zoning ordinance change, it does not happen by via motion tonight, we cannot do it that way, it has to be a public notice, has to be a public hearing. Because the stipulation, and let's just be honest here, it's a loophole that somebody's found in a very outdated ordinance that they are now trying to use to target businesses downtown with the guise of increasing business downtown for them. So what we are doing here is trying to say, let's discuss this ordinance before we post it for public hearing, before we go out and pay the money for notifications, and then y'all not like it, right? So that's later on the agenda.
So, is wait to ask my question, or to ask it now?
I would, if you have discussion for her specifically, I would encourage you to ask now, and then it can be brought back up later if need be.
Okay. Would it, I totally agree, if you go to any small town in America, you will see resale shops that have stuff out on their sidewalks, and I totally agree that does make a difference, and that you have the right to do that. And I don't see that there should be a problem for that. My thing would be, is there a way that it doesn't go all the way to the curb?
Okay, I'm not sure I'm your.
Like, be up against the wall of your building and not spaced and more
That's
going
fine.
all the way to the curb.
That's fine, that still leaves a good 4 foot.
I was actually going to applaud the idea of putting stuff along the edge of the curb where it might be a danger.
I've been allowed to do that for 7 years.
I am a big fan of free market solutions, so that's the kind of thing that I would absolutely encourage. I do want to see this completely ditched for the most part. Businesses know that if people can't get to them, then people can't shop. So as far as passable goes, I'm okay leaving that up to the discretion of each business, because they're gonna hear the complaints before we do. In sales. In loss.
That targeted one business, 2 out of the whole B3 area, and let us give some time to get this thing resolved so that all the businesses are treated fairly. Is there a
Or
way
if
that
not,
y'all
the
can
other
do it?
businesses need
Yeah,
to be
is
asked.
there a way y'all can do a short-term waiver?
Same way I was.
So no, there's an agenda for that, and they'll have to deal with any code enforcement tickets outside of the meeting. I do want to respond to Councilmember Teal. We do have to be careful about blocking the entire sidewalk for ADA reasons. And that is a city problem, not just a vendor problem. And so we do need to be aware of that, but we can discuss that more when we get to the.
And I have always followed ADA compliance on the sidewalk.
And may I make a point of correction, just as a matter of fact, there has been no citation issued, correct?
No.
It's
no
just a
citation.
warning and
But
thank you.
I feel like I was given until the 10th and I removed my stuff, but others didn't. That's where the citation, I said, if they're allowed to leave the stuff out, they need to get cited.
Okay, thank you all. Okay, we're gonna move on down to line item 11, deliberate and act on park board applications and appointments. And we have all those in our packets.
And they're all here to speak?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe all of the are currently here. Also, there was an additional one that the city received just yesterday via text, email. So you had that, outside of your packet. Again, we as the city did not receive that until yesterday. So, everything else, in your order, and if you look at the applications, you can see when they, signed and then, turned them into the city. The ordinance is also in there. I will say that one of the applicants, is the president of, WWFL. That's an automatic appointment, right? Because, we did say that in our ordinance that they have a spot there. So the council, if they so deem tonight, should appoint 4 more applicants. Or the discussion, as was brought up in public agenda about the changing of ordinance, that might need to come up for discussion as well. That's up to you guys. I'm just kind of laying it out there.
I was going to ask if we kind of first adopt a little bit of procedure on how we want to do these appointments. We have 5 places, and according to the ordinance, we have 3 members shall be appointed in even number of years, and 2 members shall be appointed during odd number of years. We're starting this from the beginning. So if we established places 1 through 5, decided which ones were going to be terms that expire in 2028, and which ones were going to be terms that expired in 2027, and then start filling those one at a time.
Councilmember Teal, yes, that is the case. I would suggest that be decided at the very first Parks Board meeting, because I've seen in the past where it's a random draw out of a hat. And that way.
That works for me.
And the council may have different.
Well, the council needs to decide who's gonna, not the Parks Board themselves, the council does need to decide who's gonna have the shorter term and who's gonna have the longer term. And certainly, y'all could do that by lot, right? But I've seen more that councils will just decide, you know, so-and-so's gonna have the 2-year term, and.
So can we hear from the ones that are actually here tonight?
Well, you wanna ask me questions?
Yes, absolutely.
You have a question to ask?
I do.
Okay, well, let's, surprise.
Parks Board Parade.
Jeff Wilson, you'll ask him a question.
Well, I'm gonna have to abstain from that one because, as you know, I am married to that.
You can still ask him a question.
Okay, Mr. Wilson, why did you?
Let him give us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you say Sandy Mae?
No. Mr. Wilson, could you please rise and come to the podium?
You'll be on the man.
Madam Mayor, council, citizen of this great town.
So my question, I have a question. That's what we're supposed to do, is ask you a question. So what would you like to see of the Parks Board, and why do you think you would be good for that?
Well, I think, for myself, to serve on this board and be involved, being proactive. I'm just supposed to things here. A mission that I like to help with is creating a park board that better serves the community for all, community members now, but just not just now, but in the future. And, I also like to, help develop a park board that promotes an attractive and vibrant community, one that individuals will come visit. We can have a park or a community entity that everybody will be proud of, and of all ages, not just the youth. And also to be on the board, I'd like to help bridge that gap in the community, and local government to help, one thing be help defray finances, not just leave it on the local government, but you can have a budget as well. I'm sure there's money provided for budgets.
Thank you, Hadley Brennan.
Madam?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your interest, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Hello, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm actually the one who turned in my application yesterday. I actually turned it in on the first. Well, I had my lovely husband step in and turn it in, and he just texted it to Christy. So it got missed. But yeah, I have 3 children. 2 of them are in the school district. 1 of them I have currently going to a charter school in Waco. But I want something to see my kids grow up on and play on. I live in town. I have a husband who talks to me about the parks department all the time, and I want to work with the community to try and come up with solutions to see what dreams we can come up for our kids.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Warren Pennell. Yo, I'm just going in order, I think these papers out. So they're not in their order, I'm sorry.
We're going a little fast, but that's okay.
Hello, my name's Warren Pelham. I've lived here for about 44 years. Growing up here, we didn't have much to do. A lot of kids got in trouble because they didn't have anything to do. I want to be part of the board where I can see what we can do for the children in the town. Just as much as y'all want to see, I want to see the kids grow up and be happy and do the right thing. And without anything to do in town, like a park, thankful to other things. Like I said, being here since I was a young kid, I think I would be good on the park board because I care about the community. Of course, I've been here a lot. So, if you would, just consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Sneed.
Yeah, good evening, Council Mayor. I'd like to be on the Parks Board for the entire community, but specifically tailored to the youth who would most utilize those public parks. And I would bring to the board, especially connectivity, being a pastor and a youth pastor specifically, as well as the connectivity of being currently serving on the school board and having that collaboration in hand. I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Sandy May.
Good evening. My name is Sandy May. I moved here 7 years ago. I live in town on San Marcos. And I would like to be on the board because I would like to see Whitney grow and beautify, and for its current citizens and anyone who moves here. My experience is I lived in my home in Carrollton for 35 years. I was the president of the HOA for 15 of those years. I've been involved in beautification programs with matching funds with the city. So I'm used to dealing with contractors and city council members and getting things approved and working with code enforcement and laws, restrictions. I'm also, I was self-employed for 25 years as a recruiter. So I am very good at phone calls, recruiting, fundraising, talking to people. So I feel like in any renovations that we might do at the mustard seed or at the park, that I would be extremely beneficial in finding vendors that could help us do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Stephon Shelby. Let's try to get our list. You don't have to if you don't want.
She can speak again if she wants.
Mayor,
This is what we
I
call
have
a
a
default.
I don't have a question, but I wanted, if this park deal gets approved or whatever y'all are doing, these members that wanna be involved, will you do a criminal background check or just let whoever wants to get involved, get involved? Because I'm saying for the safety of the children. I mean, I think a criminal background check on these individuals that want to be involved need to have a criminal background check for the safety of the children.
Thank you.
Because I have a lot of grandchildren in this town, and I want them to be safe.
Thank you. Noted.
Stefani Shelby, I spoke before, but, I wanted to be a member of, or considered for a member of the Parks Board because of my connection with Whitney. I've been here since 2017. I have a child that attends Whitney schools as well as every youth activity there is. I'm already pretty involved with the WWFL, the Youth Association. I volunteered all the functions that we have. As far as criminal background goes, you can run mine if you'd like. I'm certified with the state, so I'm currently going to work for CPS. So you won't find anything on my background. But I am, I would just like to be a member of the Parks Board to help, as Jeff and several of the others have said, to beautify Whitney, give a place for not just the youth, but for our seniors too. They don't have anywhere to go and sit and just communicate unless they go to one of the businesses and have coffee. They can go to the park and sit and feel safe and just welcoming in this small rural area that we have. I love Whitney. I'm very passionate about Whitney and the youth and the seniors here, and I would just like to be considered for the board.
Thank you.
And I just want to clarify what I said. I'm not saying it because of the person speaking, it's for the safety of the children.
Thanks, Gregory. Ken Scales.
So Councilperson Teal, I wanted to revise one thing, or clarify one thing that we talked about earlier, which is the maximum term for any Parks Board member is 2 years. And you had mentioned like a term going to 2027 and 2028.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how.
Yeah,
we were gonna do that.
so the way you do initially, I'm sorry, I'm talking way too close to the microphone. But the way you would do the first board is, I think it's 5 members, so you have to decide whether it's 3 or 2, but I'm just gonna say 3 for purposes. You would say, you would appoint 3 members for a 2-year term and 2 members for a 1-year term to get them on staggered terms. And everybody understands it's no offense that if they get a 1-year term, it's just because you gotta get them staggered. So anyway, that's the way you would do it. You wouldn't appoint any of them to 3-year terms.
Okay. Just to clarify, so we're looking at like a 2026 terms, and then 3 2027 terms.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, I'm trying to look at Christie, she's not making eye contact. Yes, correct.
I know the feeling.
I have a quick question,
Yes.
if I may.
Yes.
Who is the WWFL representative that we already have in place? Say it again.
Me?
Kevin Threadgill.
Thank you. I just wanted to put
I
this
didn't know you
in.
were here, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
He's been incognito. Do you have anything you wanna say?
No, I mean, if y'all wanna hear from me, I can say stuff, but.
Absolutely, please.
Sure, I want to hear what you got to say. I want to hear what you
Yeah.
got to say.
I wasn't planning on talking.
I'm back here thinking, who is that guy back there?
I know I want to do it. A little bit about me. I moved here about 10 years ago. My wife is a school teacher here. We lived here. I worked before, did everything. Moved down here probably full time about 4 or 5 years ago. I've been the WWF president for a year and a half. My term is up in another 2 years. And go from there. At any given point, most sports we have anywhere from 250 to 300 kids. In the last year, this town used to have WYA and WWFL. We have merged. Some of y'all might know me from that merger. My name wasn't popular back then. We took it over baseball, and I dealt with the city a little bit this year. The one thing that I would like to see is the city kind of step up and do a little bit more to that park. I know what the budget was, and I know how much we put into it. We put in about 30 grand into the park this year just to get it to where it's playable. Some of that was through donations, and some of it was where it's at right now. Every field has been ripped up and pretty much started all over. That's where we are.
Thank you. Thank you.
I had a second question, if I may. I'm sorry.
Montclair and my own family. My other question or comment that I wanted to say is simply that I don't know how this decision will take place, whether we're gonna do it publicly or privately in a meeting, but my preference is going to be people that already participate in the community, that we already have seen involved with our youth, helping on cleanup days, things of that nature. That's the kind of candidates that I will be looking at. Thank you.
So, yes, I would like to make a, can I make a motion?
Is it all discussed, yeah?
Yeah, so I'm basically, what I'm looking is to look for people that are, what we consider is looking for people that are, work together. They can, you know, that have the heart of Whitney at, you know, that they're looking out for the citizens of our town, present and future. And that can put aside personal differences and do what's best for our town. I also believe that we should, if we're voting on this, that we should do it in closed session and not in public session. And I mean,
Okay, so we can't do that, that's not on the agenda.
okay.
But I did want to remind y'all, in, public comments, Mr. Rayna had made the comment about, maybe opening it up to, somebody else.
Can I speak on that? What you're talking about?
Sure.
First of all, I know every single applicant. You got some great ones, okay? We got some real good ones. Don't think that I don't wanna vote y'all in or want y'all to come, because first of all, it takes a lot to get a volunteer to come forward and
Yes.
give their time. But the history of that park, I don't see a person in this room knows when that park, maybe Jeff, knows when that park was built and who built that park. And every single one of those men that built that park, the original park, did not live in the city limits at that time. So, with that said, I'm wanting to ask the council if we're doing the right thing picking just in the city, because the original men that built the original park, none of them lived in the city, and they donated a lot of money. And the reason why I'm also bringing this up, because the present, you had another group of men did wonderful things in another park and built this and gave us. That's Operation Greater Love. Okay? Them men, other than one that I know, lives in the city of Whitney. They donated tons of money. I'm not for sure, and guys that y'all are here that wants to be on the park board, I hope y'all understand where I'm coming from. I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing. I'm not trying to prolong stuff. I'm not trying to drag it out. I'm looking at basically reality. You know, who built that park first? Nobody in the city of Whitney. Who built Operation Greater Love and gave the money? Only one person in the city of Whitney. So, as a council, I'm asking y'all, and I want y'all to really, really think, is this something we need to do tonight, or we need to amend and revisit and make sure we're doing the right thing for our community? Because the kids, all of them, do not live in the city of Whitney.
I agree. Amen.
Okay? So with that, I want y'all to really think what I'm saying and what has happened in the past, and here pretty well right now, if we're doing the right thing tonight, if we voted on it. Or can we prolong it and discuss, you know, and make amendments?
I am absolutely okay prolonging. The biggest thing that I'm looking at is we just basically tabled a parks grant, and that's got to come back. The next opportunity is now less than a year away. So whatever we do with this, I'm just thrilled it's going and up. Whatever we do with it, I would like to kind of move fast once it gets set up.
I don't want to table it for 3 months. I don't want to
Right.
table it for 6 months. I want it done, but I want us to step back, and I want to make a motion that we table it this month and revise it as a group, seeing if we're doing the right thing for our community.
Well, I would like to ask our Parks Board applicants
I
to just raise
think
their
that's
hand
great too.
if they're okay with opening this up and tabling it.
And we do want the best, guys, and I think y'all know that. I know every single one of these applicants.
I know what y'all are capable of doing.
And I know, and you know what? I don't care. You got five volunteers that get put in a spot. I'm the type guy, you don't turn volunteers away.
Yeah.
You don't. More the merrier. You know, and you get more stuff done.
So, one of the things that I would like to say is that's why I appreciate having some of our senior council members that can help us explore the past and discover what has been done in the past, because several of us are newcomers to Whitney, and I appreciate the history and the discovery of what things occurred prior to us being here. To me, history is very important. Thank you.
So just to clarify, it sounds like what I'm hearing, just to clarify what we're talking about is possibly at the next council meeting having a possible revision of the ordinance regarding qualifications of park board members.
Maybe open to.
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure so we can bring you what y'all want.
And when we do that, I'd also like to, this says, that the board shall meet at least once per quarter, and because of these, grant application process, I'd like to amend that to once a month, you know, before the council meetings.
Well, I like to make a motion that we table this subject till next month.
But I agree with the amendment too.
So I've got a motion by Jason Ince, second by Vicki Wilson to table for next month. Amy Keel?
Yes?
Vicki Wilson?
Yes.
Cheryl Taylor West?
Yes.
Jason Ince?
Yes.
4 yeses, motion passes to table.
Madam Mayor, may I make a real quick address? Thank you all for your interest in doing this.
Yes,
Thank you
yes.
for volunteering, and thank you for being here tonight to answer the council's questions.
you all.
I really do appreciate it.
And Mayor, can we have a quick bathroom break recess again?
What are you having down there?
She drank like 2 gallons of Dr. Pepper today.
Okay, go in, 7:42.
Oh, yeah.
I know, I'm like, you can make the microphone.
I'm back with that. Yes. Of course.
Well, we're just, we're still moving. No, just probably lose somebody that would be,
Okay. I mean, this is all.
yeah, well, I appreciate it. I know. I appreciate
It's all right. And that's a big part of it. Yeah.
Stick behind you in that trash can.
It's kind of chilly in here, isn't it?
Well, it is always chilly in Amy's opinion. We both like hiking in the Grand Canyon, we talk about it all the time. And the people online say you can't go in the summertime because it's over 100 degrees. And we say, we do yard work. So, I mean, for her, it's pretty
Probably freezing, yeah.
And I don't know why she didn't bring a jacket.
Well, usually, when you get this many people, it gets hot, but it's actually keeping up.
There's a thermostat on this.
Yeah, it'll keep it up.
Yeah, I think so. I think Jamie did
Hey, how's this going? All right, rock and roll.
So the link on the website
Hey, go get your picture. Step in here. Take your
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I've got your arm in. So the current one is not.
That don't matter.
Fair enough, fair enough. It's okay. I seen your post. So, I know. Oh, my, yeah. But I don't know the last name on there. It's understandable. Well, that's always good. It's okay. Some of them still doing great. Yeah, exactly. It's okay. It was nice meeting you for sure.
December 48th. Line item 13, deliberate and act on ordinance 02-25-10-1.
Well, we're skipping one. Number 12.
I've already circled that, you have to go. Deliberate, provide direction, and/or act on TNMP update on Trinity Street subdivision.
Substation.
Substation.
So I wanted to give a quick, the council had asked me to put in multiple requests, additional requests to TNMP based off of the road repairs. So much back and forth has transpired since that initial email. But I did include in your packet what TNMP's response was. The council, the initial request was additional, they wanted to, all the way to Jefferson, the drainage ditch rehabilitation, and as well as the screening. So the council, the three requests that I passed along was to repair the roadway Trinity from Polk to Jefferson, not just Washington to Polk. Upon completion of the substation project, reshape the drainage ditches alongside Trinity and replace damaged tin horns/culverts. Screening options are still being requested, and the council would like something at least 8 feet higher. Those were the requests that you guys asked to be passed along. That's what I said. Their response was, as they did not perform any work along Trinity beyond the block of Polk and Washington, they're not going to repair that. Essentially, they're just going to do from Washington to Polk as previously agreed. They will rehab the drainage ditch in front of the substation as part of the street repair. They will install slats in the fencing as it currently exists around the substation. No additional work or improvements to the fence will be conducted. It might not be possible to install slats in the gates, as it might interfere. So with that being said, there was a lot of debate on what was said at the council meeting by the representative from TNMP versus what they were going to do. So again, much back and forth has transpired between myself and that representative since then. I did ask for them to be here tonight because I figured you guys would have questions. did not happen. So, at that meeting, they said that they were gonna put, he said they were gonna put hot mix down 2 inch across the entire width of the street, asphalt, and then at the same breath almost, he said that they were gonna be able to do it for $12,500. Well, I've been in public works for a very long time. That is a very unrealistic quote for what he said they were going to do. So when I started pressing on that, their plan was to just come through and patch the road, and I quickly said, no, that's not gonna work for us. You're gonna have to do more. So, he came back with, they're going to come back with hot mix, saw cut the road, and again, most of this is in your packet, and the packet's public, it's on the website, so anybody who wants to read this, it's there. He said they're gonna come back, saw cut the edges of the road, compact hot mix asphalt in 2 inches, and then do a 2-course chip seal on top of that road. Since they were not going to pave the other side, and Trinity Street's been such a problem for the city of Whitney for so long, and as was discussed in the budget meetings, I said I intentionally put extra money in the street repair in case they did not cover that cost of that expense. I got with the contractor whom the council, or I'm sorry, TNP was using, and asked them, since they were already going to be here, how much would it cost for them to do the same thing on the other side, the city side? Initially, he hit us with a quote of $23,000, and I said, that's too much money. Started negotiations with him. I said, you know, you're already gonna be here, negotiation tactic. I was able to secure, the other end of Trinity, which by all intents and purposes was the worst side between Jefferson and Washington, for $19,500. I presented it to the mayor, since the money was already allocated in the budget. We went ahead and signed off on them doing that. I believe they completed that work today. I think they're gonna do cleanup tomorrow. So, is it a solid, permanent fix like we've been looking for? No, it's not a rebuilt road, but it's not a $100,000 road. And I wanna make this point. If they were to completely reconstruct the other side of the road from Washington to Polk Street, if they incurred that expense, the city does not have enough money to incur that same expense on the other side of the road. So we would have done a substandard job on the other side. So what we have now, I think, was the best compromise on both sides. We had already allocated said money and actually came in under what we had put in that budget. So that's kind of the update. I think that the road work, I think, was complete today. Now they're gonna move on to the drainage and all the other things. We'll stay on them. I've asked my public works guys to keep an eye on the area and make sure what's going on there.
Can I make a brief comment? First of all, you have stayed on this like a dog on a bone, and I appreciate it. Yes. You have stayed on it, and you have dealt with it over almost a daily basis. Thank you.
Yes.
And secondly, I wanna say I had lunch at Nourishing Nibble today, and the dust was flying everywhere. So my car can verify that street is being worked on.
I do have a question moving forward, since there's been a request to review the franchise agreement, update it. Do you know, have you seen in other cities where TNP has a greater responsibility, where the city has more ability to act and enforce something more than what we did here?
I can only speak to what I've experienced here inside the city. I think that we're very unique in our municipality where that substation is. As the TNP representative said, typically they try to build those outside. Unfortunately, that was already inside city limits, and it was their decision that it was more cost effective to build that one and to increase its holding capacity as opposed to just completely changing it. So to answer your question directly, I have not seen anything outside of other cities. I've only experienced what we have inside of this. Now, I have read that franchise agreement. I read it many, many times, and I do think that it absolutely needs to be revisited because it's a 2013 model, and it's something that we would have to determine.
So the franchise is for 20 years, and so certainly parties can renegotiate at any time if both parties want to. but we can't force a renegotiation until the end of the term.
So it started in when?
2013, I think.
It was, the ordinance was 2014.
Precedents that says different.
2014, so we have to wait until 2044?
34.
30, oh, you said 20 years, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that's not the case. Since that's it, that was
Sir,
saying
if
is
you're gonna
working on
speak, you
the
need to get
budget.
up here, we're probably gonna be speaking.
That's assuming that nobody's broken or infringed upon the franchise agreement, and it was done in good faith. There's been a lot of stuff that has happened in the meantime that has not been in good faith, and as well as a manipulation, lies, the expansion within the city, and a number of things that, I mean, I've been obviously researching it as much as you have, and there's considerable precedent to change those franchise agreement. And as far as the example that you're looking at, Nacoma's got issues with NNP. Pilot Point has issues with NNP. The city of Louisville has issues with NNP. So it's not just Whitney specific. There's a number of things that are subject to that. But there is precedent, there considerable precedent of how they manipulated the city and treated us like a county in order to get what they needed to. I mean, triple the size within the city. I mean, so I think that's not entirely true. It's just whether or not whether or not Whitney wants spend the effort to make it right moving forward and not get taken advantage of like we did in this particular case.
So is this the kind of thing that we could look into, and if we need to bring this back again, do a little bit more, maybe even executive discussion on this? I can always look into issues, for you, for sure. I will say publicly that state law greatly, favors, utility providers. And that's not just electric utility providers, it's all utility providers, and so the law is greatly in their favor. But I'll be more than happy, to look into that, and we also have an attorney in our firm who specializes in these kind of franchises.
Well, and just looking at their email, TNMP is talking about that, the rest of the block that the city's paying for was normal driving and parking, which, I'm sorry, those trucks are not normal. It is not normal for those types of heavy trucks to be up and down that road all the time.
I don't disagree with that they are oversized trucks, but what I think happened was it made a terrible road worse. And their argument, and it's a valid argument, is that road has not had any maintenance done on it since 2008. So, pressing and trying to get as much as I could out of them, and, ultimately, this is kind of where we landed. But yeah, that road is not designed to handle that kind of weight. Let's just be honest. But in 2008, when they did that, it was a long time ago for a road. And so, and he provided pictures, if you recall, of what the road kind of looked like over time. So, getting what we got, I think, is ultimately more than they initially wanted to do. I think it was a good concession.
Sorry. The only other thing that was brought up was on the screen and how the substation affects downtown. I'd love to hear from downtown businesses on how substation being there helps, hurts, can be fixed, can be mitigated, can be maximized or capitalized on. So, if anybody has any ideas on that, I'd like to hear them. Not necessarily now, but
Okay.
yeah.
All right, line item 13, deliberate and act on ordinance 02-025-10-1, amending article chapter 4, article 412, mobile food vendors of chapter 4, business regulations.
Mayor, Council, in the 89th legislature, House Bill 2844 made some amendments to how municipalities can have permits for mobile food trucks. So now if they are registered and permitted through the state, they do not have to get a permit inside the city limits. So this takes that away from the municipality and strictly puts it on the state. So we had to amend our ordinance to make that change.
I am absolutely in favor of striking as many things as possible. My biggest question is, contrary to popular belief, I'm not in favor of making complaints on people, and if I'm going to make a complaint on someone, it's gonna be very, very public. I don't do anonymous complaints. I will stand behind that. However, when we're looking at all these different things, how many people in the area are going to try to find another loophole because it's in the city ordinance that will have to be applied equitably? It's like right now, we have the Chick-fil-A truck sitting over at it's chamber property, isn't it? No?
It's a church property.
So, in this ordinance, it talks about how they have to have a notarized, a notarized statement, a copy of the owner's written, signed, and notarized permission to operate. And we just stopped at Chick-fil-A, and they don't have that. They could not produce that. I am not gonna call the cops on God's chicken, but is this something that needs to be in the ordinance? Stuff like this. We have permitted locations that talk about the different zones, but the zoning map link is still not working when I left earlier. So if you're a mobile food vendor and the zoning map link is not working and they set up in the wrong place, are we gonna cite them? Distance regulations, a mobile food vendor shall not conduct business within any residential zoning district or within 200 feet of the boundary line of said residential district. Is that something that we really need to even have on the books? So while we've got this out, we had somebody worried about criminal background checks. That part is being struck here. Does the state license require a background check?
And I feel like it may be health services is taking this on, but whatever state department's taking this on is supposed to be promulgating rules, and to my knowledge, those haven't come out yet, so I can't answer that question.
When I was looking into some of this, I was under the impression that if we as a city had a public health, representative health department, if we designate a health department representative, then we would not have to have little permits like we had the issue with for the Pioneer Days, that they would still have to follow state rules, but they would not have to pay that extra $52 if we have a designated health representative. Do we not have that already? I thought our
Council member Wilson, we do not have anybody inside city limits that is a health inspector when it comes to that type of thing. It's always fallen on the county, at the county level to do that. Now, you're talking about if you decide that that's a path you want to go down, that's just another employee or another task that we would have to task somebody with, so just something to consider.
And so, certainly, Billy asked me to revise y'all's existing ordinance so that it complied with the current just passed state law. Certainly, if council had other things they wanted to remove or add, we could look into those, but all that was meant to be done with this is just to make sure our current ordinance complied with the brand new state law. We are getting ready to do another round of public hearings for ordinance changes. Is that correct? Or is that just zoning or? The public hearing and noticing process is required for zoning ordinances, it would not be required for this.
Okay, so on this, if we wanted to minimize this as much as possible for city application, is that something that you could look at and try to grind it down so we don't have malicious enforcement?
Councilmember Teal, and I'm sorry if I'm overstepping here, but I believe, and I'm trying to go back in my memory bank here, but I believe in 2020, it seems like there was a committee of local business owners that had kind of gotten together to look at this ordinance and help shape this ordinance. And a lot of these things may have come out of that. I was not in this position at that time, but I do know that a lot of these rules and regulations that were asked of the city, of citizens and people who might be doing that. So if you're asking that if we want to do that, then maybe we need to consider doing something again similar to where local businesses have input and have that. You know, I've been trying to bring things to you to do by committee, right? And that's why it's not, and I've told you this at least 64,532 times. It's not, you know, it's not my job to shape these. It's yours, right? And so I think the more input you have from folks in the business realm, the better this ordinance is going to come out to be.
I'm good with that. I'm just, you know, I'm looking at this as a lot of people are upset that these are being enforced. And people don't like it when someone calls and tries to have something enforced. And the easiest way to take care of that is to remove that little part that keeps getting intentionally misused. So if there's any way at all that we can remove something that's gonna be used as a divisive tool, let's get rid of it.
One option for the council, and completely, y'all can table this, but one option for the council, an alternative option, is to pass this so that the ordinance you have on the books is in compliance with state law, and then consider further revisions. That is just an option. I'm just providing that as an option. Right, I mean, Councilmember Entz just asked me a question. So said a different way, if y'all could choose to pass this tonight, which would take out, right, all this does is take out the provisions that don't comply with state law, or bring us into compliance with state law, said in a more positive way. Y'all could pass this tonight, and that wouldn't foreclose you from considering future amendments to this ordinance, greatly reducing it or adding to it. I mean, whichever way. Or the other option is to table the whole thing and consider it all at once. But certainly, all that was meant by these current amendments was to bring them in compliance with state law.
And if I may, food truck businesses are happening all over big cities, little towns. I can see why the state has decided to start regulating this. I really don't want to micromanage food trucks. I think that's pretty minor for our role here. So I would be in favor of turning it over to state regulation and going with that.
Cheryl and I agree on something here, so I would like to move adoption of these changes and ask that this be put on the agenda for November for revisiting how much of this we can turn loose our local businesses.
A second.
Got a motion from Amy Teal with a second from Vicki Wilson. Amy Teal?
Yes?
Vicki Wilson?
Yes.
Cheryl Taylor West?
Yes.
Jason Ants?
Yes.
4 yeses, motion passes.
On item 14, deliberate and act on a special event permit by the Lake Whitney Chamber of Commerce for Trunk or Treat on October 31st, 2025 from 5 to 7 p.m. and to close Brazos Street and Washington Avenue.
I'm sorry, we're gonna close all of Brazos and all of Trinity?
No, just Brazos to Washington, to the south side of Washington.
It would be Jefferson to Washington Street for Brazos, and then all of Washington.
But-
So south Brazos.
South of Washington on Brazos would be open.
That's correct.
Okay.
And all of Railroad.
Okay, thank you.
And I know this says from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. What time does ACE close? At 6. If there's any way we can try to give ACE a little bit more room for people to get there,
They'll have room.
that would be great.
What sets up on Washington Street are the fire trucks, the ambulances, the police, the sheriff, the game board, the state police, they all come in. And, you know, they'll sit side by side and, so it won't take up all of Washington Street at all.
Okay. There was just someone trying to get to ACE on Pioneer Days, and they were really frustrated.
I went into Ace on Pioneer Day and it was cramped in there.
Yeah. And just because people are asking, did this used to be a solely city-sponsored event? Okay. And is there a charge for the trunk or treat setup? No charge. And have we figured out the Pioneer Days expenses?
No.
We were waiting until payroll closed out so we could get the actual costs, but I've asked all the department heads to get that to me ASAP. So payroll closed on last Sunday.
It was Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Monday.
Yeah. Because Monday was a holiday.
And since that was brought up, I would like to make it known that there is under special events, an ordinance that we have in there that anybody that has an event such as that are responsible for paying those fees. It's not just something that we did out of the blue, it's an ordinance.
So why was it approved?
So, I think that the question with this was, okay, so let me answer a matter of fact question. The city used to pair, National Night Out with Halloween. And they had Boo with the red and blue, and it's what it used to be called. And that was a city setting that, okay. Last year, we as a city, right, you know, the reason I said the comment earlier when I said, nah, the city's gonna catch it first, I promise you we will. Because we caught a lot of flack for not having that event on Halloween itself. It was always a Saturday before or the Saturday after. So last year, we did a survey and we put it out. When do you want this to happen? Would you prefer it be before or after or on Halloween? And the results were overwhelmingly for I want it on Halloween. I do want to make a point that we've caught flack this year because there's a football game. Okay, well, we can't help it when Halloween falls. So, you know, you never can win, right? It's like the city's trying to do this, but we were trying to follow what the citizens have requested of us is to have this event on Halloween. Yes, this is something that I believe the chamber's trying to take over, but the mayor can speak on that, not on our behalf. But again, the citizens overwhelmingly stated that they wanted to have this on the 31st, and I just wanted to point that out, so.
Are we gonna get to paint the intersection again?
I don't know, I've had a hard time getting the alley cleaned up.
I was gonna say, it would probably be kinda cool if, I mean, it works to have that intersection painted for events, as long as somebody else is willing to pay for it. I think it'd be good to paint the intersection before an event, leave it go, and let it be some advertising. But I'll leave that part to the chamber, because the city doesn't have the money for that.
Is there a motion on that?
I move that we approve this permit by the Lake Whitney Chamber of Commerce for trunk or treat on October 31, 2025, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. and to close Brazos Street and Washington Avenue.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. I've got a motion by Amy Till, and a second by Cheryl Taylor West to approve the request. Amy Till?
Yes.
Vicki Wilson?
Yes.
Cheryl Taylor West? Yes. Jason Yance?
Yes.
4 yeses, motion passes.
Line item 15, deliberate, give direction, and or act on draft amendments to chapter 14 zoning, section 1402, 016, B3 Central Business District, and section 1402, 025 special additional regulations.
All right. right, it's the time everybody's been waiting for. So again, one of the things that the legislature changed, let me just point, House Bill 2464 had some legislative change when it comes to home occupation. So these are the proposed changes. That go. Also, there are proposed changes to the business district to allow for a certain amount of items to be displayed and sold outdoors. This, again, because this is a zoning ordinance, that means we have to do publication, we have to advertise in the paper, we have to have a public hearing. Because we do not have a planning and zoning commission, once the council hears the public hearing, they have to wait 31 days before they can take action on it. So when zoning ordinances come, people have to understand it's not something that we can just do in one meeting. It's a multiple meeting process. That's why it's a 60 to 90 day process minimum. So unfortunately, that is what it is. But if you'll look at the proposed changes to the B3 district, you'll see that what's been struck and what has been kind of allowed here is, and I've got mine backwards, I have the home occupation one first, but I really wanted to talk about the zoning as a B3. Is it in your packet backwards too, where home occupation is first?
Yes, it's home occupation is listed first.
Okay, well, we can address that first. So home occupation, essentially the legislative changes there were, as long as it's not infringing, then you can do it. There's no permit required, there's nothing, so all that's been struck.
If only we had not really done this to begin with last year. I would like to point out that House Bill 2464 allows this kind of regulation. It does not mandate it. And I would really like to see the city do the same thing here as we're looking at doing with the mobile food stuff. This is a little town and people are trying to get by and people know what they're doing. They know their neighbors, they know what's going on. I mean, even the signage, if people would be allowed to put out a sign saying, I'm a notary, I do mobile repair, I do whatever, I do tax accounting, that would only help the people around them in their community. So I am in favor of striking this whole thing, going through our code, because some of the SF1, it says home occupation in the text of the code. The chart was wrong. I would like to put the words home occupation in every zone with a home and correct the chart. And try to minimize a lot of this stuff so people are free to live their lives, run their businesses, and we don't have to be fielding a lot of malicious complaints.
Okay, I'm gonna have to disagree to some extent on that, because when you have situations where some type of businesses can block your streets and you can't get through, or they're playing loud music or doing loud noises that you're trying to sleep at night, that's a problem.
We have nuisance laws and
At 10 o'clock.
And sound laws and blocking street laws.
So if I may, let me just say this. In my experience in this position, it has been a practice, right? Because everybody likes there to be no government in their life, okay? But instead of taking up matters with their neighbor, they come to the city to say, I have a problem. And then we hear, well, the city should have never, or the city should have done this. Instead of it being a neighborly problem, which, that's the reason for regulation, right?
Right.
Is unfortunately, because people won't go to their neighbor with their problems, they turn to the city to handle it. Home occupation is always going to be a secondary use of a home, right? So the primary use has to be a home. That's why there are the rules that surround that. You guys shape these things. We just drive this, right? So it's up to you how you want to do this. It's a very slippery slope. Again, let's just take, right, there are nuisance laws, tracking. But we still have to have some type of rules, right? And how those rules look is up to you guys. I don't think that we can abolish this completely. I don't see that as being a good thing, because then that puts more back on us, and we're gonna be right back here listening to it.
Can I ask a question? How many home businesses people actually signed up?
That'd be one.
Seriously?
And that would be me. I'm the only one that did, which is a shame.
I think that's great. I think that's great because there are more out there. And I know that we are not trying to do a completely no government thing here, that we're never going to get there. However, even Thoreau had a really great quote about if you have a law that is basically an injustice against somebody, it should not be followed. And when we are trying to micromanage people's homes, their businesses, the way they make their money, I applaud everybody who has a home-based business in the city limits of Whitney and did not file.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Ms. Teal. You are against property taxes, correct?
Yes.
So without property tax revenue, what do we depend on mostly? Sales tax revenue.
Sales tax and donations.
So you have a business in town that has to pay sales tax because they have customers. I'm a home-based business. I file my taxes. And I pay to the city of Whitney my taxes for my sales. That's what every home-based business is supposed to do, but without some regulation, I guarantee you they're not doing it. How is that fair to these business owners who are paying for their rental space or their business property, and they're paying sales tax for something that you're saying is okay for home occupations not to pay? I mean, I just think right is right.
It's not our money, it's not our life. We're not the ones that's gonna be evicted from their home while they're trying to make their bills.
I've got to say something here. I'm the opposite of Ms. Teal. I value paying certain taxes in my community. I like having police. I like having fire. I like having clean water to drink and clean. As I mentioned earlier, I like having my trash picked up once a week. I don't mind paying a small portion. I think we keep our tax rate very low for our community. I like it when bad people go to jail. I like it when our streets get repaired. So I completely am an opposite viewpoint. Part of your life and living in the United States of America is paying to live in this great country.
Well, let's get back on the agenda.
So, just, if y'all would look at the ordinance in front of you, the home occupation ordinance, and certainly y'all can choose not to regulate home occupations at all. What this does is bring this in compliance with the changes in state law, so that what's left of the regulation of home occupations is outside appearance, the number of employees and visitors, and traffic and parking regulations, and a general nuisance statement. That's what's left with this revision. And clearly y'all can take it all out if that's what your choice is, and I think we're just looking for direction on what the council as a whole wants, so that we can properly notice this for a future zoning amendment.
So I think that we should do with this one, as we did with the past, is just go ahead and bring this up to state regulations, and then leave it up for amendment at later.
Okay, I would just like to point out that we cannot pass this tonight because it is zoning, but if this is about trying to make sure that we can go ahead and get it noticed, right, and proceed, right? We wanted to kind of workshop this tonight to find out where we're at. And again, as the councilor mentioned, if you see everything that's struck out of it, really the standards are 3 line items down.
Yeah, bringing this up to state regulation would be pretty much abolishing everything.
It's outside of 3 little standards, yes.
Right, because this 1820, the law cited, is not a mandatory state regulation. Right, so just to be clear, and so I'm gonna say what you said, Councilman Tilden, a different way, which is, state law removed from cities some ability to regulate home occupations. It left us with some ability to regulate. And so all these proposed changes do that are in the packet is to make sure we're in compliance with state law. That does not prevent the council at some future date from removing all regulations of home occupations. The state's not mandating that we have home occupation regulations, but it's not prohibiting us either.
All right, so, the next one, the big one here that's been a point of contention would be the outside regulation of outside sales. One of the issues that we found in this last situation that kind of, I was asked to look into this is, so 1975 or 76, forgive me, I don't remember the exact date. I think it was 76 is when the city of Whitney passed its very first zoning ordinance. In that very first zoning ordinance, it had a stipulation that said antique store inside. Okay, so unfortunately that's what it was. And as you start looking into more things, we ran into the conflict about having things out on the sidewalk. So we kind of looked at some of the changes here. Most of it, and again, I think, let me just say this. I believe that they should be able to use the sidewalk as a public space to sell what they have, right? It drives business. As the first discussion that we had earlier, in this discussion that was had the last time this was brought up was, I remember Councilmember Ince saying, you know, I remember Miss Cato putting her dresses outside, and I remember all these things, right? This is what drives downtown business. It's always been that since it was a cow town and a railroad town. You know, exactly. And it's very hard for you to say that just because you're in a central business district of B3, that I can't have outside sales, but let's look at Brookshire's as a B2 or Dollar General as a B2, and they can't, right? So it just doesn't make sense when the whole attraction of a downtown area is foot traffic and sidewalk traffic and driving that inside. So now, with that being said, again, I have to go back to, listen, I don't like a lot of government in my life either, but there has to be regulations because people look at us to say, well, the city should have never, right? As I mentioned earlier, do they want it on Halloween or do they not want it on Halloween? It's gonna be the city's fault regardless. So, should we have 90% of our store on the sidewalk? And probably not, right? So I think that, you know, there's gotta be some type of a regulation there. How much can be on the sidewalk? There has to be ADA compliance with the passage of said sidewalk. So, there are some potential unintended consequences with passing an ordinance like this because you pretty much open it up to putting whatever you want out. So I just wanted to make the council aware of that, and this is a discussion Counselor and I have kind of had, and she can kind of expand on it if I'm leaving something out here, but I just want you to kind of think from a broad mind, right? Everybody's looking for that loophole to take advantage of whatever. So as you use that, you know, kind of keep that in the back of your mind.
So I looked at several cities' ordinances regarding outdoor display. What I tried to do, and whether I was successful or not, I don't know, but I'm gonna at least explain what I tried to do, which is limit the outdoor display to the actual existing businesses. I don't think y'all want to have just a random person setting up sales on the sidewalk if they don't have a business, an indoor business associated with it. And so that's what subsection 1 is about, and 2 really, that basically the people that can do outdoor display are the businesses that are already downtown. They can display their inventory. I also had it occupying no more than 30% of the linear distance of the front of the building. It can't be in the required parking places because obviously people need to park. And that at the close of business hours, except for these organic materials, needs to be brought back in. And the thought behind that is, I'm sure a lot of businesses do anyway, bring their stuff back in every night, I'm sure. But the thought behind that also is that, you know, rain and the effect of weather and so those are the 5 requirements. I tried to be as have as few limitations as possible, but those limitations that I thought probably are what's already happening. Is there any objection from hearing from Ann on this?
She's got me wrong all over the street.
Trying to be very constructive.
I really appreciate all the work that everybody's done to try to pull something together to make things work. I'm hoping we can have good discussions. I think this ordinance is prime for being in a town hall meeting to find out what works better. While I do appreciate the work and the research with other towns, I will say I'm strongly opposed to a lot of the wording. But I'm gonna be trying to be very constructive. I'm looking for an ordinance that will create a balance for all. And one of the first things I looked at is it's B3 only, not B1 and B2. So I would question, why is the downtown restricted and prohibited from doing things that our B2 and our B1 get to do? For instance, Dollar General, Berkshire's, everybody else, it's only restricted to downtown. Definitely understand the ADA compliance issue. We all should be ADA compliant. The merchandise on the sidewalk is not your ADA issue, it's the sidewalks themselves. So there's a balance with making sure the wheelchairs get up and down and the walkers. The challenge is they can't get up on the sidewalk to go up and down because it's not compliant. The things we looked at specifically though, on our buildings, when you look at the 30%, if you look at the buildings built in the 1890s, you will find they followed the shotgun method. And that's because back then you were taxed based on your storefront area. Most of our buildings are only 24, 25 feet wide. We don't have a wide width like Dollar General or Berkshire's. So if you take the 24 feet, make it 30%. Then you've got a 6 to 8 foot door opening. So now you've limited it to 3, 4 feet wide to be able to get access. Then you've added in here that it can't block the window. Well, if you've been downtown, you'll find that our windows are huge. You know, my building has an 18 to 20 inch ledge under my window, which effectively meant that if my building was ever a retail store, I would get a 4 foot to 5 foot space by an 18 to 20 inch. And that's it for my display, because anything taller would block a window. This is unique to downtown. One of our buildings, in fact, actually has floor to ceiling windows. So whoever goes into that business would be wholly restricted from having anything outside based on this ordinance. The other thing we've looked at too, I think y'all all pretty much mentioned it, our ordinance has been in effect for a long time, but you've seen merchandise everywhere. To suddenly change downtown like this is gonna be an issue. I think we can go back and rework the percentage. I think we can rework some of the height. The issue too is it does say it has to be up against the building. You lose that protection on where the stairs are a problem. You still have the 36, 48 inch width between, but you should be able to have something out near where the steps are, because that's where our elderly have been falling. What I would actually propose is that we kind of step back a little bit and look at how are we equitable in treating our businesses. We have 3 different business zones for different reasons. Our downtown is historic. If you do go back and look at the smaller towns, you know, I look at Clifton, I look at Calvert, I look at Cleveland, I look at New Boston, the little town I came from. They all have the same issue with the older buildings with the sidewalks. One of the other ordinances we have is the building owner, property owner, is supposed to maintain the sidewalks. So I would ask, if I'm supposed to maintain it, why can't I use it? You know, I'm responsible for fixing it, why can't I use it? But I would propose that we don't act on the ordinance tonight, which you can't, you'll have to go to the zoning hearing. And I would ask that the council take the option and meet with at least 60% of the business owners downtown, because it is a very specific area. It's our historic area. I would have a great advantage if I was on the side of the building, because I've got 78 feet of building that I can use and only 2 small doors. But when you look at the front of our buildings are shotgun. They just don't have the space. But I would ask that you look at the building owners in our area and also talk to some of the other ones. If you're going to put an ordinance across like this, why are you restricting it to only one area? We need to work together with this recent complaint. the action taken. It was delivered selectively. And if you drive by downtown right now, it looks very old, it looks tired, it looks abandoned. My business is basically tourism. I get people from all over Texas, all over the country. They drive right by us because they say, oh, downtown must be deserted. But I saw something on the street. Not saying that Debbie Oss's stuff is done correctly. I'm not going to take a position either way, except that merchandise on a sidewalk in a small town is traditional way of marketing. Taking it in at night, not a problem. But there needs to be some changes in this particular ordinance before the city goes through, because it will restrict businesses from coming downtown. We're trying to build up downtown. This is not gonna help. Businesses are gonna come and they're gonna say, hey, look at B1 and B2, look what I can do there. Ooh, I can't do it downtown, so I'm not gonna move downtown. We're gonna lose some of the economic advantages that we have in our little downtown area if we do restrictions like this. I do agree that we should have rules. I absolutely agree that we need to be good neighbors, and I would love for someone to come and say, hey, neighbor, I got a problem. Instead of going through all this complaint system, we go way up and come down. We don't, just go to your neighbor. And I found that my neighbors downtown are very open to changes. If something's bothering us, we can say, hey, move that out of the way. I've got a customer coming. I have customers in wheelchairs and walkers. They've never had a problem with anything on the sidewalks. They have had a problem getting up and down the sidewalks. But this does not work for downtown from a business perspective in the way it's written. But I think it can be written to protect our downtown, but not restrict it. So I humbly and respectfully ask the council to please review this. I think there's a lot of work put into it. One thing I've learned, it's always easier to edit than it is to create. Creating an ordinance is very difficult. Editing it to fit would help. And Billy, thank you for looking through all these ordinances, and our attorney too. That this, as it's written, is not gonna work for downtown, and we will end up losing some really good businesses.
I would much rather spend my hard-earned bucks at a family-owned business than, no offense, I hope nobody here is an employee at Dollar General. There's $1,000 Generals probably right here in Hill County, or dollar something. I would rather give my business to to a family-owned business. Secondly, I want to reiterate real quickly on what Ann just said. It's a little history. My first job was at a Myers department store in downtown, another community. And it had the glass door front that you're talking about, where you put the mannequins in the front so that when people walk down the street, they saw the mannequins in all these dress clothes, and that's what brought the shoppers in. That's the little bit of the history of why those businesses were built that way.
Thank you.
I would like to ask a little bit more about the limited information part. Is that something that is going to be maintained? Or we're going to be expecting businesses to keep moving stuff inside every night? Or are we going to leave it up to the business to decide the risk they want to take?
I think that's a council call, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, when Jennifer and I had this conversation, it was, we need something to start with, right? And that's why we're having this discussion tonight, because the last thing I want to do is go through the advertisement process and go through that whole thing and us have to amend it, right, before we adopt it. So that's gonna be your call as the council to determine what this looks like. I think that it would be worthwhile to have conversations, because we need to know what to do, right? Ace has always had their stuff out when it was Sims, you know, and before it was it an auto parts store?
Auto parts store was next door.
So, I mean, these folks have always done this, and that's what I'm trying to say is, I went through every zoning ordinance change the city has ever made since 1976, and let me tell you what, that was a monumental task to try to figure out where we went wrong with some of our changes. And it looks like most of the errors that we see in our current ordinance was made in 2020 when that thing was adopted. And that's where we see a lot of conflicts between what it says here and what it says there. And it's unfortunately the way zoning is, you can't just fix it. So we're gonna have to workshop these things, and we're gonna have to figure out what's right, because let me tell you something. Whoever comes in behind me, I wanna leave it better than I found it, right? And we have to get these things right, because the last thing we wanna do is keep having to go back and fix, oh, well, it says something here, and it doesn't say something here, right? Taking it in and out, that's your call.
Well, and I'm going to add that looking at number 1 and number 5, I mean, this is very clear that the time period is limited in duration, close of regular business. I didn't put these in here. I would not want to enforce them. But if they have been on the code and have not been enforced, and the code has not been changed, then the city has created an environment that does not help with the conversations that are happening downtown. Because when we have businesses and downtown people putting up stuff like this very publicly on their business page, this does not help those conversations.
So Councilman Teal, if I may, everything in this is a proposed addition. None of this is in the current ordinance. So everything in this section is a proposed new ad.
So we want to add, clarifying that we're gonna move it in and out.
Well, I can see where the height structure and the part that Ann pointed out would be, very limiting, but, I don't know if we can fix that part. I don't know.
My opinion on moving in and out, what's the difference if they're closed or open? First of all, if it's mine, I'd move it in, because I don't wanna get it stolen. Otherwise, if there's not a problem during the daytime while it's open, well, there's not a problem at nighttime other than somebody stealing it. That's my opinion. If it was my store, I would move it in and out. If that makes a point, and what you're asking, the way I feel.
Take the business owner take the
You're
risk.
exactly right, because the liability, other than being stolen or something damaged, it's the same liability whenever they're open. So, basically what I'm saying is, if it was my business, I'd take it in and out, so if they wanna leave it out there and let it get stolen or damaged, so be it, if that's what we decide.
And all of these things are y'all's decision for sure, but what I will say is, a lot of times cities will have the take in and out, and remember, the organic materials are allowed to stay out overnight, but the take in and out for things other than organic materials, if you had, let's say, a antique chair sitting outside, it was never brought in, it would become weathered and it could be a health risk, but again, that's completely y'all's decision.
I'm okay with weather.
I'm weathered, I'm still okay.
So, again, council, I just need you to know, would you prefer that we try to do some type of a public hearing or not public, like maybe a town hall to workshop this with said business owners, or would you prefer to go to the business owner yourself and bring it back with proposed changes? I mean, you gotta tell us what to do here, I mean, before we do this.
I would love a public workshop advertised as a town hall. And I think for the public's perception, there is a difference between what they think of when they see a city council workshop versus a public town hall. Because a town hall is just, it's more of an invites information, and we shouldn't, in a town hall, we don't have to limit, public comment to 4 minutes, and people can come back and stuff like that. So I will point out that, if you have a quorum of the council, you don't have to limit comments to 4 minutes, but if you have a town hall where a quorum of the council is there, you would still have to post topics and stick to those topics.
Yes.
I was.
Okay.
So it sounds like what you would prefer is to take these proposed changes, workshop them with the public, then bring them back before we advertise.
Yes.
Can I say one more? Sure.
At the microphone. I think the council and the city and all of the citizens have been complaining about the division and everything. If you got together, imagine if you created a coalition of the businesses and the council and the citizens together, and we collectively came up with kind of rules to live by or guidelines, how much more effective that could be for us. And you're not gonna make everybody happy. But if you can get the majority of the people on the positive swing, I think the town halls, now we have had a town hall meeting on the mobile food trucks. I don't know if y'all remember that. It did not end well. It was extremely contentious. So I would propose that we do have guidelines on how people should behave, and if they don't behave, they should be asked to leave. Because that way we can do positive work and we can get this thing moving, and you get the majority of people to agree, they help the other people. And downtown is a little village, and it's hurting right now, and the city's hurting, and a lot of people are hurting, and we now have the reputation of people not wanting to come downtown or come to Whitney because, but that wasn't directed at y'all, I will tell y'all that.
It shouldn't have been directed at anybody.
Anyway, so
I would just
I-
like to know what's being held up. I haven't seen it.
Off topic. Number six, line 16, deliberate and act on resolution R 2025-1002, designating the Lakelander as the official newspaper of the city of Whitney.
I make a motion that we, designate the Lakelander as the official newspaper of the city of Whitney.
Second.
So we got a motion by Vicki Wilson and a second by Amy Teal.
Yes.
Okay, Amy?
Oh.
I guess I can't ask what the cost was on this, can I?
No.
Okay, I'll abstain.
Vicki Wilson?
Yes.
Cheryl Taylor West?
Yes.
Jason Hens?
Yes.
3 yeses, 1 abstain, motion passes.
Then on down to line item 18.
We have a executive session, Mayor.
If you don't want it to happen.
Oh. Executive session.
Do you wanna do it?
Yeah, it's not long.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I said a long night.
I second.
She's the second in the adjournment.
Oh.
So we're gonna adjourn at 8:49.
We're to skip executive session.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I really do. Yes, sir, it is. Thank you, sir.
You're a young man, thank you.
Yes, that's my mom.
Yeah. Everybody needs to. So.
Oh, my gosh.
students, as you know, I love students.
Sorry to keep y'all up. That's all right.
I would not have been able to pay attention to
It was bad.
Okay, wait, don't stop it. Can you see me? Okay, so a lot of people opposing me not standing for the pledge. I did post about this on my council member Amy Teal page, and I printed out an entire explanation about it. So I'm just going to read it into the record on my stream. I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. As someone who respects and encourages the rights of individuals to peacefully participate in the public political arena, I have exercised my personal right to not recite the Pledge of Allegiance during public meetings. I've long been open about my philosophical stance as a political anarchist, even while serving as a council member. That perspective has been most visible in my voting record, consistently opposing the use of taxpayer funds taken through coercion and voting against levying tax rates. Years ago, I stopped saying the pledge. I typically stand quietly with my hands at my sides. I have grappled with the practice of standing in unison during a pledge ceremony for many years, and the recent executive order from Trump regarding flag burning was the catalyst to act on that conviction, to stop participating at all during the pledge at subsequent meetings. I sat during the school board meeting pledge, but the council meetings are a noticeable shift, especially since we are expected to stand and turn to face the flags. I also recognize that the timing of the first meeting I did this with on 9/11 is likely to make this stance even more unpopular. But current events demand reflection. Just a couple of weeks ago, and of course, I wrote this on 9/11, before 9/11, so we are now in October. So this was back then, a couple of weeks ago. There were public outcries defending physical assault in response to someone burning a flag. People deciding that burning a flag was not freedom of expression, despite the Supreme Court having long ago affirmed such acts as protected expression. Now, many of those same individuals are rightly outraged over the murder of a man for his speech, his expression, Charlie Kirk. This violent act reinforces why we must continue to protect our freedoms, especially the right to express ideas that others may find offensive, even repugnant. To quote a highly decorated retired U.S. Marine Corps Major and Purple Heart recipient when I asked for his perspective, defending abhorrent speech is the epitome of the First Amendment. I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. I urge you to take 30 minutes out of your day and read Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail. Maybe take another 10 minutes afterwards and really contemplate the meaning of the words. And this is what that says. I must make two honest confessions to you, my Christian and Jewish brothers. First, I must confess that over the past few years I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizen's counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. So to everybody who spoke tonight, I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it.